They at one time were actually, this is true, um, and it's absolutely fucking ridiculous that it's true, but it is true. They were talking a while ago about remaking Jaws,
Okay.
and the project got shut down. I can't remember if this was the actual reason, but it very well just should have been the reason. It sounds like a good enough one. But they cast their role for Quint. Um, Now I'll give you guys as many guesses as you want, and you'll never come up with the choice they had for Quint if you don't already know this.
Do
Um,
we get a hint?
sure, he was on SNL.
Jimmy Fallon?
No, Brian,
Will Ferrell.
Tracy Morgan. Now,
Really?
my buddy Eric has said that we've talked about this before because we both absolutely love Jaws, and we've both said, I like Tracy Morgan, I really do, but as Quint, seeing him be like, "That's a damn big shark over there." What? I I,
I
I
feel like you
just
should do
don't.
the podcast in that impression. Can you keep it
I
up for 2 hours?
no, I don't think I'd just laugh the whole damn time if I tried.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and his Super Friends, where we also think Mr. Doctor is a strange name. See what I did there? Because that was one of the jokes in the movie.
Yeah, I got that.
It's funny. All right, moving on. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is Andy Stoles.
Hello, peoples.
And back again, Mike Bradley.
By the crimson bands of Satorak, I have returned.
Andy, where's your Doctor Strange intro?
I got nothing.
You could even just said like you're the Sorcerer Supreme or something along those lines.
I fucked it up. What do you want me to say?
By the hoary hosts of Hoggoth. Come on. There's so many.
Mike's got a whole list, it sounds like.
No, those were the two. But there's a lot more out there that
He
he
blew
likes
his load
to.
already. He's done.
He does. Stan Lee definitely wrote a lot of the stuff for him because there's a lot of
Excelsior.
what no like the hosts of Hoggoth, the Crimson Satorak. Like he does the alliteration thing
Gotcha.
a lot with the character, but.
So if you haven't guessed already, for this episode, we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange, the 14th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we're just going to sort of get right into it. But, well, I guess maybe before we get right into it, again, we've all three of us saw the movie, so we're going to talk about the movie, give our sort of impressions, thoughts. Before we get into the spoilery stuff, I just want to hit with everybody. What did you guys know about Doctor Strange before going into the movie? Anything at all?
I have one thing that I had a problem with the movie immediately when you just touched on it, is they totally messed up a chance there. They made it their 14th movie. They could have just flopped them around and had just Doctor Strange be 13. Why not? It just would have been that nice little Easter egg touch to it that could have been there that it wasn't. But go ahead.
I mean, I was asking you guys, what did you know about Doctor Strange before the movie? Anything, or is this completely new to you guys? You gotta go in completely clean.
I knew just a very small amount about Doctor Strange. I knew he was the Sorcerer Supreme and that he was a wizard and he protected the Marvel Universe from like mystical types, not mythical, mystical type stuff. But I learned a lot in the movie, so I obviously didn't know a tremendous amount. Like I couldn't even think of a open for it. So there you go.
Personally, I learned most of what I know about Doctor Strange from reading X-Men comics and Magic specifically, having a lot of dealings with Doctor Strange, operating in the same kind of universe, dealing with Limbo so much. I learned a lot most of what I know about him through that. I've read a few comics. I know his impact on the Marvel comic universe as a whole more than I would know about his individual series.
Yeah.
His presence in the Illuminati, things like that are extremely important in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah,
and I
that was
know
something I was going to bring up too. The whole Illuminati group.
right. The only, I mean, I know a few of his villains. Dormammu being probably his best villain, I would say. There's a few others there that could turn up. I mean, Baron Mordo could eventually turn up. But there's several of the more mystic villains that he's had that have turned up in the X-Men universe recently, I would say, because, I mean, the last few years, because magic has started to play a much bigger role in their universe, so those villains have started to pop up.
Now, specifically, you're talking about the magic character, right? Not like magic in general.
Yes,
Yeah,
magic.
like
Ileana
Magic, isn't it?
IK.
IK.
It's just a K. Yeah, Ileana Rasputin, Colossus's little sister.
Yeah.
Not Harry Potter magic. We're
Or like Magic the Gathering or something.
yeah. They operate in the same general idea of the alternate dimensions. Like that's kind of where they both draw their power from, both what they do. If you don't know a lot about magic, she does a lot like what Doctor Strange does. She protects the world, basically, is the guardian of Limbo, which is just kind of a really awful place full of demons, which originated, I believe, I'm not sure if it originated in Journey into Mystery or in Doctor Strange, but one of the two. But yeah,
Either
that
way,
would
it's
about
probably a
sum
character we'll never see in the MCU.
up. I hope Fox just gives up on it someday, but but who knows?
All right, so you got a nice wide range there. I'm more aligned, I think, with Andy. I pretty much knew he was Doctor Strange was Sorcerer Supreme. I knew that he was in a car accident that screwed up his hands, and then he went to go try to fix himself, and that's where he learned magical powers and became the Sorcerer
I didn't
Supreme.
even know that shit.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know that either until I seen previews for the movie.
Yeah, see, maybe okay. So maybe I did know a little bit more then. And then, what Mike and I were talking earlier, the whole Illuminati group, I feel like I knew maybe more about Doctor Strange from that, just from his interactions with other high-ranking people. I don't even remember who all was in Illuminati. Like I know Professor X, I think, was there, Tony Stark.
Black Panther, Namor, Reed Richards.
I feel like we're missing some people, but I can't think of who.
I didn't even know Illuminati was a group in the Marvel Universe, so fuck me.
Yeah, it was like this whole group were the ones making a lot of the decisions in the Marvel Universe when big shit happened.
Yeah, they were kind of they would like analyze the levels of threat, but in the major Marvel Universe events, like I think it started right around Civil War, didn't it? Like right at Civil War,
either that or the Secret Invasion, wasn't it?
Well, Secret Invasion came after.
Did it? I don't know.
Yeah, I thought
timeline.
I'm pretty sure Civil War came first, then Secret Invasion, then Siege.
Oh, you're right. Maybe it was after Civil War that they never wanted a catastrophe like that to happen again, so they decided to form this group to try to.
No, it was around. It was around before because I specifically remember the graphic novel Prelude to Civil War, or Road to Civil War, whatever it was the Illuminati comic was the first one in that series.
Yeah. Okay.
So they were around. Either that was the start of it, or they were around well before that.
Because they were the ones too that eventually decided to throw Hulk into space, I think.
Yes.
That led to like World War Hulk and all that stuff.
As far as I know, that's the case, because that's why World War Hulk was such a big deal, is because he got so pissed off at them for casting him into space.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna look it up to see who we're forgetting out of the Illuminati, because they're able to introduce almost all of them, but there's gonna be a couple like Professor Xavier and Reed Richards that they can't.
Yeah.
Black Bolt is
Yeah, that's
also
right. Yeah, they need the
Illuminati.
humans there.
Um,
I think Cap was a member for a while too, right? But then he
No.
got kicked out or something.
he wasn't a founding member of the group. Because it was pretty much they took like their smartest characters, I think is the way they looked at it. The ones they felt had the most influence and were, like, because the Black Panther, because he's king of Wakanda, Namor, king of Atlantis, they brought them along because they're both obviously hyper intelligent as well. But I don't think Cap was ever a part of it, as in my recollection. But I have not read every Illuminati thing out there, obviously.
I thought that was it was leading up to the whole like end of the multiverse for them, like all the universes colliding and all that stuff. I always thought I read somewhere that Cap was involved with the Illuminati at one point, saw what they were doing, basically getting to the point where they're destroying worlds, didn't like that, and someone kind of wiped his memory and kicked him out.
I'm not sure about that, but I am just going to go ahead and look at the. Okay, they recruited Captain America in, and yeah, pretty much what you said. The other members that they recruited in around the same time were Medusa, Beast, the Hulk, Captain Britain, Mastermind, and Yellow Jacket. Hank Pym, not the Yellow Jacket from, not Darren Cross, the Hank Pym version.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I mean, it pretty much makes up the heavy hitters and decision makers of the Marvel universe. And
Yeah,
it's
they could
something
still do a lot of that, like you said, minus Professor X and Reed Richards.
Yeah. Namor's one they recently said they can use in either one, right?
Oh, is it?
Didn't that just
I missed that then.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure they went that route because Namor was originally just a Submariner. He wasn't a mutant. Because Namor actually existed before the X-Men.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure they went that route and said, like, listen, Namor was not a mutant originally. We don't have to make him a mutant.
Well, I don't think he was with Fox. I thought he was with a different studio. And that was like a whole big thing with another studio, not Fox.
Oh, really? I just remember something I read recently was along the lines of Marvel can use him. But
okay.
I'd have to look it up again to be certain. It may have been something I was reading that was a dispute of whether they could use him.
Yeah, his rights are so muddled somewhere that I have yet to hear like a definitive answer one way or the other who can use him and when.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like if it's another studio that has his rights, it's not going to work to make a Namor movie on its own, like without more going on.
Plus, you have to figure how long does that studio have the rights, because they obviously haven't made one in a while. So, how long do they have that before it would go back to Marvel?
Yeah, if it works the same way.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it was an earlier deal that isn't relied upon them making a movie in so many years.
Yeah, the only thing I could see him being tagged on is a part of as well is the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
I mean, he has that whole love affair with Sue and everything, so
yeah,
I could see that being tagged on, but I have no idea. That's one I'll have to look up later. It's off topic.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Doctor Strange much yet.
No.
All right, so we're gonna write the shit back onto the movie here. Before we get into spoilers, let's just sort of give maybe just our overall impressions of the movie, more or less, I guess, like kind of for people that haven't seen the movie yet. Is there anything you want to tell them to either get them to see it or not get them to see it? This is your general spoiler-free thoughts that we can try to present now.
I thought it was a really good movie. I thought the action was pretty solid, a little bit confusing sometimes. Stylistically, it was very Inception-y.
Yeah.
The acting I thought was pretty solid. Benedict did a good job. Mads Mikkelsen, is that what his name is? I can't ever remember his name.
I think it's Max. Maybe I don't know. It doesn't. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, I thought he was a pretty solid antagonist. Overall, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. I would say go see it if you are a fan of Marvel anything.
There you go. Mike, what do you got?
I mean, the first thing I would tell people is get there while this is still in IMAX 3D.
That's how I saw it too. It was really awesome.
Yeah, this is one movie. I mean, it's not going to play the same on your television at home. You know, it's just not the same experience visually that you're going to get in IMAX. Beyond that, I mean, I mentioned before the show about Benedict Cumberbatch doing an American accent, kind of threw me off a little bit. He did very well. I feel like he broke it a few times where you almost like felt like you could still hear that British accent in there a little bit at times, but it just sounded wrong for this guy with such a distinctive voice to be pulling the American accent. It just, I don't know, it sounded wrong at points.
Yeah.
But, I
Which
think
begs
that
the question, like, why did they even make him change his accent? Like, you could have just had him, like, be British and then work in America in New York, and I don't think it takes away anything from the character.
Yeah, I have no idea. I can't, that's one you'd have to ask the
Kevin Feige, why?
Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah, I was dumbfounded by that decision, but
do you have anything else to add? I feel like I cut you off a little bit.
No, I mean, that's the most I would say about it. Like, review-wise, the story moved well. It felt like something interesting was always happening. It didn't feel like it hit that lull that a lot of movies do where it's like, okay, all this stuff has happened. It starts a little bit slower, and then once it gets going, it pretty much doesn't stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a hell of a movie. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't put it at the top of my Marvel list, but it's up there.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with these guys. I think it was really fun. I did not see it in IMAX 3D. I went straight 2D because I was afraid of the topsy-turviness and the twisty visuals that if I might get sick in 3D.
Well, vertigo action.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that.
Yeah, I was a little worried about that too, but I never felt sick watching it.
Okay.
I don't get that way with anything, so I've never had those problems. Like, so I don't worry about that. My wife wasn't happy about it. She kind of does, but
so how'd she handle it? Was she okay?
Other than her neck craned a little bit because we were sitting not as far back as I would have liked, but it was crowded, so you know,
yeah,
gotta take what you can get.
Again, I think it was a good movie. I think it's worth checking out. Definitely see it in the theater because, again, like they were saying, I don't know how well it would hold up. Like, it's still going to look good on home theater, but I think it's one of those movies that's made to be seen in the theater. Yeah, and then I guess we'll get into the specifics as we continue. So from here on out, it's probably a good time to throw out the spoiler warning. Now that we've given you sort of a general sense of what we thought of the movie. So if you haven't seen Doctor Strange yet, you can pause the podcast now, come back to us after you've caught up and seen it. We'll be here waiting for you, I promise. Consider this your spoiler warning for Doctor Strange.
Wee-oo, spoiler! Wee-oo, spoiler! You know, something like that.
All right, so we are free to talk spoilers and go whichever way we want to with this. So is there anything that you guys want to start with specifically that we can get into? Or just kind of run through like what we liked, what we didn't like, that kind of thing?
The one thing that really stuck out to me was the car wreck.
Okay.
That was very intense.
Yeah.
Especially in IMAX 3D with the sounds and it just visually. I thought they did an excellent job on that car wreck. It was visceral.
This is Marvel's PSA for do not text and drive.
Exactly.
Yes. The only issue I took with the car wreck was that was not survivable.
No, yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like the grizzly attack from the Revenant. You weren't surviving it. He flies off a cliff several hundred feet down. The car impacts, rolls and rolls and rolls, and they assume that somehow his hands take all of this impact, and like he comes away with like a boxer's eye, but other than that, he's fairly okay. And I'm thinking to myself, that's an Evel Knievel crash where you have dozens of broken bones, not your hands and
Right.
a sore face afterwards.
I think they specifically show you like his hands get crushed in the dashboard.
Yeah, they do. They it's a very quick sequence, like, but it's there, and it actually was kind of one of those gut moments where it's like, ugh.
Yeah, like
you know it's coming, but ugh.
I like the Easter egg they threw in there right before the wreck happened, though. With
On the patients.
the patient list, yeah, they were talking about Rhodey.
Oh, yeah.
The
About
experimental
Rhodey.
suit and whatever. He's like, no, I don't want to. I'm not gonna work on him.
No, I have to admit, because I'm kind of confused maybe on the timeline of the whole thing. Because my first reaction when they talked about an Air Force colonel being messed up in a metal suit for like I don't know if they specifically said test flight or something. Maybe that's just where my mind.
It said an experimental suit.
Okay, so my thoughts immediately went to Justin Hammer trying out Iron Man knockoff suits, and that video that you see of like his pilot like spinning around from Iron Man 2. Like that's where my mind went.
I immediately went to Civil War.
I think that's probably what they were going for, but
I mean,
the fact that he's away for God knows how long, that's never specified how long he's learning magic and training and stuff like that. So in my mind, it could have been more in line with Iron Man 2, and then he goes away for that period of time and then sort of come back after Civil War. Like it's just been that many years.
I don't think they go out of their way to say Air Force Colonel if they don't mean Rhodey. I mean, do you really think Justin Hammer was getting a colonel into an experimental suit?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I would say, the crash happens during Civil War, and his recovery time before he makes his way to what was it?
I don't even remember the name of the place.
I can't remember.
Something Taj. Like it was like.
Yeah.
I think that recovery time is
well.
like bridging the gap from the time that Civil War ends to the time that is current. You know what I mean? Like, and where they're going for in this movie is that it's happening now.
There's a pretty big time span in Civil War, the movie itself, because I mean, you see Rhodey get hurt, and then you see him actually recovering and semi-able to walk. So he actually undergoes some sort of surgery and recovery time in Civil War itself.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I mean, that could be around the same time that Strange is in the hospital recovering, too.
Right.
So maybe by the end of Civil War, like when Rhodey's trying to walk again, that could sort of be when Strange just goes away.
Or even when he comes back.
See, I feel like that's too quick. I almost feel like he's got to be like coming back or, becoming the Sorcerer Supreme almost right before the next Avengers movie.
Well, I mean, that's not the case, though. We know that. The mid-credits scene tells you that's not the case.
And I want to get into that, too. I don't know if we want to do that now or do that later, because that kind of confused me, too.
Well, we can work our way towards it or hit it now. I mean, I don't think we have to go in chronological order through the movie.
All right, so let's get into this, because this part... And I really want you guys to maybe explain this to me, because I was confused because, all right, so the mid-credits scene is when Thor shows up and him and Doctor Strange have a conversation.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They talk about, wait, I tried to find the quote from IMDb.
Odin's missing.
Right, missing. But he specifically mentions... Strange tells Thor, I keep a watch list of individuals from realms who may be a threat to this world. Your adopted brother Loki is one of those beings. Thor says that's a worthy inclusion. Strange says, yeah, so why bring him here to New York? And then Thor says it's a bit of a long story, family drama, that kind of thing. We're looking for my father. So Strange says, okay, so if you found Odin, you'll all return to Asgard. Thor says, yes, promptly. The Loki part throws me for a loop. Now,
because the last we see of Loki, he is Odin?
because the last Thor knows, Loki is dead.
Oh, true.
So where's the realization that Thor finds out that Loki is alive? That's something we should be seeing. We as an audience know that. Thor thinks Loki died on that planet. He left him for dead, went with Jane Foster to stop the ether, goes to tell quote-unquote Odin, I'm going to live on Earth. Not knowing that's Loki. He goes to Earth through the events of Avengers, leaves after Age of Ultron to go back to Asgard to sort stuff out about the Infinity Stones. None of that brings up Loki. So when the fuck does he figure out that Loki's in charge of Asgard?
I'll solve this for you real quick. Nothing says that mid-scene or mid-credits scene is taking place before Ragnarok. That could be taking place during Ragnarok.
And that was the only way to me it makes sense is that way. That what we're seeing is a scene that will be shown in Thor Ragnarok, just like the end credits of Ant-Man was a scene directly ripped from Captain America Civil War.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
that makes sense.
See that very, simply as that's the only way it's the case.
So we have Benedict Cumberbatch to look forward to in Ragnarok, I guess.
Oh, yes.
He may have a cameo, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have much of a role, but it's going to be a bit part that they need him for a specific task that he accomplishes, and he moves on about his business once they have Odin back, and then they go back to Asgard or whatever world they go off to battle. I guess right now it's Hela is going to be the main villain. It sounds like there's going to be a few, but it sounds like that's the main.
Because I feel like anything I've heard about Ragnarok, they've said like 80 to 90% of the movie is like, cosmic. Like nothing about that has said like, oh, we're going to be on Earth for a good portion of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like it could be an early portion of the movie where, they're in New York and that kind of kicks off the movie. Maybe I'm not sure.
I feel like that's got to be a bookend, right? Maybe the end of it. Like they go through all their shit. And whatever happens in Asgard to kick off, whatever they're doing is somewhere during that time when Thor finds out that Loki is impersonating Odin. They still have to find Odin, so it sort of wraps up with them fighting whoever they need to fight out in the cosmos and then ending on Earth.
Yeah.
To find Odin. Maybe, I don't know. I'm spitballing.
It could even be a play to Infinity War. I mean... Because, as far as I remember, the events are taking place around Infinity Gauntlet comics were, I believe at some point it's mentioned in those comics that Odin was taken out because Thanos was actually afraid of Odin. He was one of the few beings still left around that he actually feared even with the Infinity Gauntlet. And so he kind of, I think it was Mephisto that made sure that Odin was occupied, kind of.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Yeah, because when I had to look up like what that scene again, like what they were talking about, the lines of dialogue specifically in that scene, because after one viewing, I walked out of that scene being really, really confused about what they were trying to set up or tell us.
Yeah. I mean, my thought on it was, my initial thought was, holy crap, we're getting the Hulk and Doctor Strange in the next Thor. Like,
right.
Freaking sweet.
Yeah, but, cool.
That was all I really thought.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth was rocking quite the beard in that, too. So, I mean, it kind of speaks to him not having time to groom himself there for a while, so he probably has gone through some shit before he starts talking to Doctor Strange there.
Yeah. I mean, and speaking of things along this line, have you guys caught the extras from the Civil War Blu-ray DVD combo thing that have Thor hanging out with, I think the guy's name's Chris, just some like normal dude hanging out in an apartment with him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That stuff was great, and I They said that guy actually may have a cameo appearance coming up, which
So that whole gag short film was actually going to be considered canon now, like in the MCU.
they said possibly like just as a joke, like just because it was so fun to watch, like the ridiculous dumb shit, putting the hammer on the toilet seat lid, like just messing with them in general. And fun things of all, I mean, Doctor Strange, they've had I've heard a lot of people have conversations, I think they did it on Comic Book Man, choose a hero to go out and have a drink with. Doctor Strange wins now. Yeah, I mean, like, he can refill your beer as you just finish it. You don't even, I mean, wow.
I was going to say, just because of the never-ending beer?
Yeah, never-ending beer. He's the Marvel Universe's Jesus right now. He turns it up, So he does it with beer, which is way better than wine. So,
all right. So I think you guys sort of set me straight on that scene there. So I feel a little bit more confident about what I witnessed for that mid-credit scene and where it could fit in. I was because the audience knows what's happening. I thought for a second that Marvel was. I don't know. I don't want to say stupid enough, but maybe arrogant enough just to put it out there that like, we're just going to push the story forward without actually showing you how the story moves forward. And you just
they were doing an X3.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping it's sort of what we predicted, and it's just going to be somewhere in the middle or end or beginning somewhere of Thor 3, and you're just going to see that scene again, and it's going to play in the context of the movie and make a lot more sense. Because Thor will actually go through the revelation that I want to see him go through in a movie somewhere. Because I feel like that confrontation would lead to such a good story beat that you need to be able to see that somewhere.
Right.
Like him realizing that Loki is impersonating Odin, like that's meaty stuff right there.
Yeah, they set that up well. It was one of the few things I really, really liked from Dark World.
Yeah.
Like set that up like that. To me, that was great, and if they gloss over it in some way, it's
right.
Gonna suck.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what that was sort of my fear there. Right. So let's. Where else do you guys want to spin off from there? Do you just want to go for what we liked, what we didn't like specifically, or anything else jump out at you guys that you want to talk about?
I was always, I guess, under the impression that Dormammu wasn't as worldly as that, I guess.
Yeah, it's celestial, you mean?
Yeah, celestial. Like that. And that he was more of like a demon wreathed in flame was more my thought or my mental picture of Dormammu, I guess.
His physical personification gives that appearance in the comics. He's also a sorcerer. And can make himself appear kind of as he wishes in a lot of ways. Yeah, I mean, like he can appear however the hell he wants. Okay. Kind of like, I think we talked before about Mephisto doing the same thing and potentially being anybody at this point because he plays such a huge role moving forward, he can disguise himself. But because he's a sorcerer, he can kind of appear how he wants, and to intimidate a new sorcerer to the trade like Stephen Strange, he would probably take on an appearance like that to be as impressive to put on as impressive an appearance as he possibly could.
That makes sense.
But he definitely does kind of have a bit of a Ghost Rider feel in the way he's drawn in the comics. The flaming skull head. Well, it's not a skull, but the flaming head, and wearing mostly black and.
Yeah,
it's definitely there.
I gotta say, I was a little disappointed at that presentation of him because that's kind of what I was expecting.
I was hoping
instead we
thing.
got kind of like it felt very Snoky.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Even like the voice and stuff, and like the facial mannerisms. It was like, did they get Gollum to do this, or
actually Cumberbatch motion captured for Dormammu?
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think his reasoning was more or less like, since Dormammu is sort of like a mirror image of Strange, so he wanted to motion capture for him too.
I mean, I was really hoping when he entered, what did they call that? The dark dimension.
Yeah.
That the confrontation with Dormammu would not be that the confrontation with Dormammu would be
An
the
actual confrontation.
right with like the physical presence of Dormammu
Right.
in some way, shape, or form. Even if it was that exact same confrontation that they had, but just give me the visualization of
Just
what
like
was drawn in the comics.
two figures, like man to man, like Benedict and then Dormammu, like same
Yeah.
size, face to face, instead of like Benedict in front of like a 10,000-foot face.
Yeah, I mean, he was. It was like a constellation he was battling.
Yeah,
So,
it really was.
Well, I sort of heard too that since the MCU and Marvel do not have Galactus, that they might be framing Dormammu to sort of fill that role.
I would really them rather just wait out Galactus on that than go that route to frame that role.
So you wouldn't want to see Dormammu play a bigger role in the larger MCU somewhere down the line? Like after Thanos, obviously after probably Thanos is defeated, they need another big bad to fight.
Yeah, and I'm hoping
Dormammu fill that void.
I don't think he's big enough to fill that void.
Okay.
He never, on his own, was able to threaten the entire Marvel Universe as like a combined team. Like Doctor Strange, Magic, they've all generally been able to handle him on their own. I may be wrong, but as far as I remember, he's never really gone that path of being able to do that. Galactus would be incredible if they get the rights back, but who knows when that's going to happen.
I think they're more likely to get Fantastic Four than X-Men.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Fantastic Four's coming back eventually here. It's just a matter of when. But
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really depends on who they get the rights to that will alter it. I mean, if things stay as they are now, you may get like a Siege storyline with Norman Osborn. Where the storyline where Norman Osborn becomes president and, kind of everything goes batshit, because,
he makes his own, like, Avengers team, but they're full of villains.
The Dark Avengers, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see if they went that route because, they can go that route because it encompasses a lot of the characters they already have established, Asgard coming to Earth kind of thing. But I really hope that they get the Fantastic Four back, more so for Doom than for Galactus, but
yeah.
Doom, they've at least gotten close to doing right. They haven't, but they got close.
Wait, which?
the first time around, not the last one.
Okay,
the first time.
Okay, the last one.
I haven't even seen the
disaster.
last one, honestly.
You haven't seen it?
We need to get both mics together to watch the 2000.
Yeah, we need to do like a Mystery Science Theater, like where we put a GoPro behind us and we're all on the couch watching this piece of shit movie and making fun of it.
When it turns up free to watch somewhere, I will probably, like, if it turns up on Netflix or Hulu for free to watch, I'll probably check it out. I refuse to pay a dime for it.
At one point, it was on HBO. I don't know if it's still there, but it was on HBO.
I have Amazon, Netflix, Hulu. I don't do cable at all.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'll let you know if I ever catch it on one of those platforms. For anyone that wants to watch it, at one point it was on HBO. It might still be there if you want to subject yourself to that.
Yeah, but Galactus is the one they've never done right ever. Like they completely destroyed Galactus the first time around with that shot at it. And
the nebulous cloud that was Galactus.
Yeah, that just.
I thought the Silver Surfer was okay though.
Yeah, I didn't mind their portrayal of the Surfer, but
that was a different time for comic book movies too. I think to them it probably would have seemed really hokey to have a giant man in outer space that eats planets.
Yeah, so little did they know that's what we wanted.
Well, yeah. I think if that movie was made today, you'd get giant man in space eating planets.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was, pre or right at the beginning of the MCU, that was before all this stuff really caught on and people wanted faithful, not that we didn't before, but faithful comic book adaptations become bankable then.
Yes, yeah. As soon as you had Iron Man, it was bankable. Yeah, they realized like, oh wow, people actually want the comics in movie form.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, other major villains they could go. Kang is always there. Um, Annalise is always there, and there's always bringing the Red Skull back.
Yeah.
You know, they're like that.
Yeah, we'll have to see what they hint at somewhere around, Infinity War and stuff, because you figure they're going to put seeds in there for the next one once they start
Probably,
showing
yeah.
up.
I can't see how they wouldn't. But
Yeah, I mean, they're planned up to like 2028, so they have a plan.
oh yeah, they have some sort of plan.
All right, anything else you guys want to touch on?
I mean, I would touch on what we spoke of earlier when we were talking about the spoilers and how we're definitely going to be getting a Baron Mordo at some point.
Is that the same guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Carl Mordo becomes Baron Mordo, and that's
he just wants to wipe all sorcerers off the planet. Because
I don't know if that's his motivation in the comics, but that seems like it's going to be his motivation in the movies.
Yeah, I think they did a good job again establishing his motivations for the movie. What I remember from Mordo was there was an animated Doctor Strange movie that was like direct to video.
Yes, I remember that.
Basically, like went through Doctor Strange's origin and stuff like that. Mordo was part of that. Mordo was, part of the. He was a disciple of the Ancient One, and I think it was more sort of like jealousy that turned him bad in that movie, where he was thinking he was next in line to become the Sorcerer Supreme after the Ancient One dies, and then this dude that just shows up and starts training becomes the Sorcerer Supreme after the Ancient One, and he looks like he got gypped out of the deal and holds a grudge against Strange and becomes a bad guy. That was, I think, how it played out in the animated movie. Whether or not that was closer to the comic book or not, but that was at least one of his types of motivations. A different. What the hell am I looking for? Different movie. Sure, so we'll go with that. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word.
I mean, that was something. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that they never really established Doctor Strange as the Sorcerer Supreme in this movie.
No, I don't think they ever call him that, no.
I mean, that was something that I actually don't know about the Doctor Strange universe, but what I did know of it is more recent stuff. And was the Ancient One in the comics ever actually the one to hand over the Sorcerer Supreme title to Doctor Strange? Because in the comics I've read, I've never actually seen a physical embodiment of the Ancient One. I always assumed he kind of talks to it through a mirror, and I didn't realize that he had actually trained directly with the Ancient One.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like the movie, at least the animated movie, had him training with an Ancient One, like an actual person. Unless I'm remembering him, thinking he was training with a person, then that person wasn't actually there. If it was one of those type of things, but it's been a while since I watched it. But I do remember him like having conversations and training with a old guy.
Okay, I mean that was something I didn't read his origin comic, so I don't know if there was ever actually a physical embodiment that he dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, is there going to be like a sorcerer committee to establish who will be the Sorcerer Supreme? Because as far as we know, he's just the guardian of the New York. What did they call it?
Sanctum. The Sanctum Sanctorum is his home.
Yeah.
That was also something they showed that maybe some people wouldn't pick up. Don't ask me why I know this, but they show the address on Bleecker Street.
And that's his address for the Doctor Strange's address?
Yes. I
thought it looked familiar, but I wasn't sure why.
I was hoping they'd throw in like a stupid, ridiculous Easter egg and just change it from Bleecker Street and just have them be at 221B Baker Street and just for the hell of it.
When I saw the address, that was sort of what I was thinking too. The Sherlock Holmes reference.
Oh yeah, I mean that definitely at some point we're getting some sort of joke between him and Robert Downey Jr. about Sherlock.
Oh yeah, because they both know Sherlock.
It's gonna happen where it's going to be one of those things where it's just subtle, and it's going to be where one of them says to the other, like, "Oh, no shit, Sherlock," and like they're just gonna like look at each other, give the eye, and be like, and then move on. But it's going to be fun when it happens, and probably Infinity War. I would
Yeah, I was gonna
guess.
say Infinity War. We're gonna have to wait for Infinity War.
Yeah, it's only a couple years. I've been waiting for it since, I don't know, Avengers, when they finally released it was going to be Thanos. So
Yeah.
it's a long time to wait, but it better be damn good because of all the damn build up. So
Yeah, going back to Mordo, I think, like we said, I think they set him up pretty good. Like being the strict guy that's trying to really follow the rules, and then sees all these people that he respects, or at least the ancient one he respects, breaking all those rules and bending all those rules to accomplish their goals, and he doesn't like that too much. So, yeah, I completely buy his motivations and where he's trying to go and the turn for his character, and it was one of those things I think I was waiting for the entire movie, since sort of knowing a little bit about Mordo going in, I knew he was supposed to be a bad guy, so I didn't know what was going to finally make him turn. So, yeah, I liked the way they set that up and paid that off.
yeah, I mean, I was expecting it to be at some point in this movie where Mordo turned to a bad guy and you actually had to deal with him in this movie, not in a subsequent movie down the line wherever he ends up turning up. So I was surprised by that, but they also kept it pretty well under wraps that they were going to use Dormammu in this movie, because until they told you, oh, Dormammu's gonna, like, they mention his name, it's like, oh yes, Dormammu's the villain, this is gonna be sweet. Until that time, I had no idea that they were definitely gonna do it, so that was nice, at least.
As much as I would have liked to have seen like a sort of a physical confrontation with Dormammu, I thought it was really cool that Doctor Strange outsmarted him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as much as I wanted to see like the fire-wreathed head and all that stuff, I thought it was really cool how Dormammu, I've come to negotiate.
Yeah.
Dormammu, I've come to...
That was a great comedic scene when they're just showing the 1,000 different ways that Dormammu kills him, like just shot after shot of him dying. It's like, oh, that's just fun.
Reminds me of Edge of Tomorrow, just watching Tom Cruise die over and over again.
Yeah.
I gotta watch that movie again. It's been a while.
Oh,
it's a great movie.
Good.
I love Edge of Tomorrow.
But I think another major point for the MCU we have to discuss is the Eye of Agamotto being an Infinity Stone.
Oh yeah, the Infinity Stone. Yeah, definitely.
We're up to 5, right? We got one more.
Yeah.
So we're just missing one.
Yeah, that's going to be the Time Stone, obviously.
So that's got to be Guardians, right? Guardians 2 or Thor. It's got to be one of those two movies.
It could be Captain Marvel.
I'm trying to think, like, what type of thing could the Time Stone be used as a plot device in one of those movies? Well, I feel like it makes sense for
the
Guardians.
Eye of Agamotto?
The Eye of Agamotto is the Time Stone.
Is the Time Stone.
Oh, wait, which one?
Because he was altering time with the Eye of Agamotto. So
I was going to say, that is the Time Stone, yeah.
I'm thinking, I blanked out. I was thinking that was the one we still need.
As far as I know, the last one we need is the Reality Stone, isn't it?
No, I think shit.
No, or was that the Ether? Because they...
Yeah, I think it was the Ether.
Okay, so you have the Power Stone from Guardians, the first Guardians.
Yeah, it's the purple one.
You have the Time Stone in the Eye of Agamotto.
Green one.
The Tesseract. Did they define what that one was?
That was like the Space
Stone?
No, wasn't it the Mind? Didn't it have something to do with mind control?
The Mind Stone was the thing in Loki's scepter.
Okay.
Which is now implanted in Vision's head.
Right. Yeah. So that's 4.
And then you have the Eye of Agamotto as the Time Stone. Is 5.
Well, we already mentioned that one, I thought.
The Eye, the Aether, the Tesseract, the Power Stone, and Loki's Scepter is 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a 6th one coming, which should be... So then you have space, reality, time, mind...
Power.
And power. What's the last one?
I should have looked at a list before I did this, because now I can't think of what the hell the last one is.
Isn't there
Could
a
this be
spirit
in your
stone?
encyclopedia?
Oh,
Are
yeah.
the Infinity Stones in your encyclopedia?
I gotta grab it.
I was gonna say I can just.
Or Google it, see if that
Yeah.
might be quicker. I'll have to, like, check the index and, like, do book things.
Do book things. Damn you, book things.
Life before the internet.
Okay, so publication history description. Okay,
Bust out the Dewey Decimal System over here.
we're missing the Soul Stone.
Okay.
So you have time, space, mind, reality, and power accounted for, and we're missing the Soul Stone.
So what makes the ether the reality stone?
I don't know. That's the fuzziest one for me. That's the one I'm not
Yeah.
really sure how that fits.
Yeah, the ether was the one that confused me too.
Because they're
The
like
re-
lining
I
up
think-
dimensions and stuff. So I don't know.
Right,
It gives
they're
somebody
lining up
power still. So I don't know how it deals
Well, they
with
all
reality.
they all grant powers. Like if you notice, like he uses the Eye of Agamotto, but he does not ever actually touch the stone.
Yeah.
Because
Self.
it's encapsulated in that in
Right.
the eye pendant.
So if he were to have actually touched the stone, he's using a spell to control it. If he touched it, it would probably have done something similar to him, to what you see happen to Ronan, to happen to Malekith.
Right. Okay.
So the ethers being the reality stone, I think just
What was
I don't-
Malekith trying to? I don't even remember what the hell he was trying to do in that movie. Like-
he was trying to turn everything back to dark so that the Dark Elves could take over again, and
Yeah.
it had to
So I
be
guess
during
that
the
could be-
alignment of the realms. So I guess because it's the 9 realms, it could be the reality stone. It was a convoluted idea to have it be the reality stone.
Yeah. Or
But-
it's a way for him to like shape reality somehow using its power.
Maybe.
I
We're
thought
stretching here, I
his
think,
intent.
but-
I thought his intent was to destroy the realities and leave just the dark world, so
Yeah,
that
okay.
the Dark Elves could.
Yeah, that maybe that
Rule.
makes more sense.
But it makes more sense for his motives, but it doesn't make sense as to how it's reality stone.
Well, yeah. But he's not the strongest villain in the MCU, so we can't really. The more we
You know-
dwell on this, the more we're just pointing out how bad of a villain Malekith is.
The guy that played him, I can't remember his name.
Christopher Eccleston.
Yes, I thought was a fantastic choice to be a villain for the Marvel Universe, and I feel like they just chose the wrong villain.
Yeah.
He was somebody you had, great casting, great actor, and you just were like, well, who do we got left for Thor? Throw Malekith in. Let's do Malekith and make it
That
him.
freaking cursed guy, the brute that like takes that stone and like crushes
Curse.
it and becomes real powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Killer Croc, isn't it?
Yeah. That villain was better than Malekith, and he doesn't do anything but just run around and punch things.
Curse was an awesomely powerful villain in the comics. I love Curse in the comics, and they did a good job with Curse in that movie because he wasn't really anything but an overpowering evil brute.
Right. That's what I mean. Like I enjoyed that one. They almost feel like they fleshed him out better than Malekith.
Yeah, and Malekith, it didn't work. That's all. It just didn't work. But nonetheless, now we have 5 Infinity Stones, and what they're going to do for a Soul Gem, I think, is an interesting thing to talk about, because I don't think they're going to put a second one that the Guardians deal with.
That's true. That was like the focal point of the first one. So why make them go after another one for the second one?
But
Right.
they've referenced Thor going back to check on Infinity Stones multiple times now.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking it's probably going to be Ragnarok.
Yeah, but at the same time, like
Could
he
be.
had to deal with an Infinity Stone in his second movie. So would they make him deal with another one?
Do they ever actually say that that's an... Oh, they do say it's because he gives it to the Collector.
But yeah, well, he does, and they also say that when he
Odin
makes
gives that
mention,
speech too, doesn't he?
yeah, we've now seen the ether. We've seen, he lists them out, the ones they had seen to that point. I can't remember at what point the speech was given, but he lists out what is already turned up, and yeah,
Actually, it'd probably. I'm sort of narrowing it down. I think the logical choice now probably is Ragnarok. Just sort of by going with, I don't think, because the Power Stone was such a focal point for Guardians, I don't think they'd do another one. I'd be highly surprised if they did another one there. I think somewhere in the course of Thor's adventure, he'll come across the sixth one. And I would think it probably has to be in Thor, because Captain Marvel comes within the break between the two Avengers movies. Like, we get Infinity War, and then Captain Marvel comes after. So...
Well, I honestly don't think that that's necessarily the case, because it could very easily be that Infinity War is Thanos hunting down the Infinity Stones.
Right. But I do believe it...
And he
it's
gets
sort of in my mind for Infinity War,
yeah.
the way that plot of that movie, in my mind, is going to go is that Thanos, by the beginning of that movie, knows where all six are. It's him hunting them down, and by the third act of the movie, he gets all six, puts them in the gauntlet, and just wrecks shit. And that's where it ends.
Right, decimates the Avengers. And
yeah, Empire Strikes Back ending.
That scene from Age of Ultron comes true.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, okay.
So with that in mind...
the scene where the Scarlet Witch messes with Iron Man's head. And
okay. Oh, I gotcha.
He sees everybody dead on, like, the floating throne in space.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so that's sort of where I see that movie ending. So with that being the case, the Sixth Stone would have to show up before then, so Thanos can go ahead and use it with all the other ones and wipe everybody out.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a likely plot to me. I just...
Because the kicker is that when that movie comes out, or when that movie's made, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, and Robert Downey Jr. are at the end of their contracts.
Yeah.
So they could technically wipe those three characters out, and they don't have to come back.
I'm sorry.
That's a very.
I think I shed a tear just there.
Depressing.
Well, here's the thing, because comic books kill characters all the time. They always come back somewhere later down the line. I do think it would be good for a movie-going audience to wipe those three characters out and have them stay dead for a while. I think that would raise the stakes for everyone else involved. It solves your recasting problem, because you don't want to recast these characters after these guys played them so well. Right. And you have enough characters built up in the MCU now that can sort of fill the gap. Like, you can have Doctor Strange step up, and Black Panther step up, and Captain Marvel step up, and all these people
there's another
build
option,
another Avengers team.
Black Panthers could be where the Soul Gem turns up.
Do we want another... Do you think there's going to be another Soul Gem on Earth, though?
Yeah, I feel like it has to be somewhere else. I think there's enough that
it's got to be like in a different realm or cosmically, right?
Well, where?
Yeah,
even the 5 that we mentioned, like where are they at currently?
Okay, well,
one is on Earth. It's in Vision's head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One is with the Collector.
The Collector's blown to pieces.
Yeah, is it though? Because his place got leveled in the explosion.
Yeah. In Guardians, his place is destroyed.
So he had the ether. So the ether may or may not be.
It's unaccounted for.
Still. Yeah.
It could be with Thanos by now, for all we know. That one could already be with him.
Yeah, so the Tesseract is in the vault at Valhalla, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Loki's we already established is in Vision.
Yeah. The power stone is with the Nova Corps.
With Nova Corps.
Which one are we missing? Are we missing? Oh, the time.
The Eye of Agman is with is in the.
So that one's
New
on
York
Earth
section?
too. So we got 2 on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 on Earth, 1 in Asgard, 1 with the Nova Corps, and 1 that is unaccounted for.
Okay. So they're spread out fairly well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say they are. Yeah, I would say you're right. It's probably not going to be in Black Panther, but it also I see.
I mean, it could. I'm just guessing, but it could very well be in Black Panther. So
my guess would be is that, you know, in the comics, Wakanda is the most technologically advanced society on Earth, and I see them playing off of that as the Soul Gem is the reason for that. They draw the power from the Soul Gem to
Okay.
drive their technological advancement. Just is an easy way for them to explain why Wakanda is the most technologically advanced nation on Earth.
See, I kind of like that just the Wakandans are very smart, and they can build and invent all that stuff on their own. I feel like it takes away from that culture if you're like, oh, by the way, they did all this stuff because of Alien Gem.
I like the idea of it, and when they wrote it, it worked. But in today's world, does it really work for one nation to have all this crazy technology that they're not marketing around the world?
I see your point, but I'm sort of going with just the type of character that Black Panther brings to Civil War. Nothing about him says, I'm a money... Like, our culture is obsessed with money and we need to sell everything that we're making and...
Well, maybe not even necessarily sell for profit, but just to make the world a better place. I mean...
Well, that was the whole thing with Civil War, too, is that they were such a secluded culture that finally just started to step into the world light, and that's when they got blown up, and then it became a bigger issue for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's also something they didn't really establish as to, you know... I mean, I'm sure they're going to in the movie Black Panther, but, you know, how he draws his power as it is, because he's obviously not just an athletic human to be able to keep up with and catch up with Captain America.
Yeah.
In a foot race. Like, that's, you're not just Usain Bolt doing that, you know, it's not, it's not going to happen that way. So, I don't know. There could be a lot of ways this thing turns up, and I think we could see it in any of the movies coming up.
Yeah,
I think it's possible.
I was just going to say Black Panther would surprise me. I think that's the least likely place I would expect it to show up, but if it does, that would be a fun little surprise, I think. Like, you're so expecting it in one of these cosmic movies, and it just shows up somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That you know, when I first watched Thor: The Dark World, and they, you know, the first time you watch, I did not expect them to use the ether as a Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
Like, but then they did.
Well, just the fact that it wasn't a stone.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, exactly. It was. I don't even know what you'd call it. It wasn't really fluid. It wasn't really solid. But yeah.
I wonder if the Soul Gem won't even just be introduced in Infinity War Part 1.
I mean,
as
that
could be like the opening act.
Like something that we've grown accustomed to not being the Soul Gem is the Soul Gem, and then they're like, oh, it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, like, and
that'd be a fun
Thanos
little twist.
has it. And then you're just like, oh shit, that was an Infinity Stone. You know,
yeah.
I couldn't tell you what that could be, but I could see them using that.
The first arc reactor.
Yeah, you're just like, what the fuck?
He created the soul gem and started this whole process because now the sixth Infinity Stone that was prophesized had been created. So you know, they already told you the rest of the gems were created already, but it would just be hilarious. That's all.
Yeah, that would be that would be like the first act of the movie, and then like your mind is blown after the first act, and you're like, "What? It's gonna get better from here."
Yeah,
what?
You're like, "Holy crap!"
There you
go. We should write that movie for them.
See, now you got me thinking of things it could be. Like now you've got my mind working on that, and I'm like, oh,
now Mike's gonna be
that,
really disappointed when it's not that. It's just like it just shows up as a rock somewhere, and he's like, "Damn it!" Andy told me it's gonna be something fun.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, anytime you're watching wrestling and somebody from way back when shows up again and the crowd goes insane because, I don't know, Hulk Hogan returned again. It's like, oh my God, it was that. That would be fun,
I think it would be fun.
To me, the most fun thing that they do is if they take a character you never expect to show up in these movies and they keep it hidden in secret for as long as they can and have that character pop up out of nowhere. That would be amazing. Character they have kept under wraps that they're going to do. Like, just think how insane it would be if Hugh Jackman turns up and pops the claws in Avengers Infinity War. Like,
that would be really awesome.
Carrying the Soul Gem.
Yeah.
Carrying the soul gem. That, even better. He is the soul gem. It's not even a stone. It's just Wolverine. He
It's at the
turns
end of
up.
his. It's at the end of his cigar. He's smoking.
Yeah. I mean,
What color is the soul gem? Do we know?
What's left?
hold on,
Orange.
Yeah, orange. Orange is the soul gem. But I don't think they followed the colors.
Yeah, I think the color scheme for the comics is different. Each color represents a different stone, so they changed it slightly for the movies.
Yeah, the red is power, yellow is reality, blue is mind, purple is space. They kept green as time though, so
Yeah.
No, they're good.
may well be that. I mean, an orange isn't out there now for what they've done, so I would guess orange is going to be the color. But where it's going to turn up, what it's going to be, could be fun and interesting to find out.
Yeah.
Since I don't know how much time we have left with Andy, anything else that you want to touch on, Andy? Do you want to go? Should we go through like characters or anything like that, or anything specific you want to talk about?
What did you guys think of Tilda Swinton?
I thought she was great.
I thought she did a really good job too.
I mean, there has not been much that she's done so far that in any movie where I'm just like, oh, she was awful in that. She's pretty much awesome in what she does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed her in Constantine too.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those movies that, doesn't get a lot of credit, but it deserves it somewhat.
I do really like that movie.
But as far as her role in Doctor Strange, yeah, it was spot on. She played it the correct way. Like, the Ancient One is emotionless, but has that joy in her heart, and that was, and you could tell that she was a peaceful person and happy about it, but very emotionless. Just acted the way that, gives you a sense. I'm trying to put it into words. Has a purpose and knows what that purpose is and knows it's right, but acts through that purpose without malice in any way. I felt that was a very good performance.
Yeah, I think she served that mentor role pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of has that about her. Like when she plays that kind of role well, seemingly in any movie. I think it's partly her voice and presence that lend to that.
She has a very soothing voice.
Yeah.
She does. Also, the Cloak of Levitation was awesome.
Yes.
I've seen that being compared to
very cool.
Like the magic carpet from Aladdin.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, poking him on the shoulder and
yeah, like once I heard that, I was like, that fits it perfectly.
to me,
it's like wiping away his tears and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, just stop it."
Well, it had almost like a BB-8 feel to me too.
Yeah,
like a very like, oh, look at this, go here, look here, and it had that. It didn't even have a face of any kind. Like BB-8 at least had a little bit of that going on, but there was no thing to give you any face there on the cloak, and it still had that character to it. It still felt like a character, which was fun.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the only other thing we didn't really touch on is Caecilius himself.
Which I was going to ask, too, about him. Do you think he was one of the better villains we've had in the MCU? Did they sort of, like, fix their villain problem with him? Or do you think he's just kind of, I don't know, goes through the same tropes as all the other villains, like sort of like Malekith, like we were talking about?
I'll let Andy go on this one.
I liked him, but I feel like they probably could have fleshed him out a little bit more. I think they did a better job with him than a lot of the other villains. Like I wouldn't say he's my favorite villain, but he's higher up in the pack than, let's say, like Yellow Jacket and Malekith and who are some of the other crummy ones.
Whiplash.
Whiplash was terrible.
Yeah.
Ironmonger wasn't all that good either. So
No, but I mean, the dude as a villain was kind of hard not to get
Yeah, no,
along with.
Yeah.
I love Jeff Bridges. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, I
I
do
mean,
think they did a better job with what the I can't even say his name. What's his name? Cassius? What the fuck?
Guy Silius with a G.
I thought it was a K. I thought it was Caecilius.
I
think
thought it
this
was
guy
a G.
still is.
Either way,
Andy, where's the ruling? K or G?
I was gonna go G.
Oh,
Guy
damn it!
Silius.
All right.
I feel like
and that funky stuff they did with his eyes, man. Even when he was crying, like wow,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that was pretty crazy. Like I don't know if that was actual makeup or if that was CG, but holy fuck, that looked awesome.
I think a little of both, probably.
yeah, I would say. I mean, for me, the character, well, he was a good villain, and I think he ranks in the middle of the pack, the upper middle maybe, of what they've done with Marvel villains so far. But I would say the only reason for that is probably because they messed a few up. I think Whiplash was just a bad choice of a villain. Malekith was a bad choice. The Ironmonger was a bad choice. Um, I think they could have chose better villains and put Gaisilius closer to the bottom of the pack. I wasn't blown away by the performance in any way, like you were the first time you watched Loki.
Yeah.
And Thor, that was a incredible performance that was like, okay, now we have a real villain in a superhero movie. Or even the Red Skull, that Hugo Weaving was incredible. That those performances kind of set the right tone to me, where this was just, it was on the upper level of the ho-hum villains, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think somewhere middle of the pack. I think for me too. I think he did do a pretty good job. I think they fleshed him out enough, so I think you understood what he was doing, and try to. I guess I could understand or get on board with his motivations better than some of the other villains. Like we talked about Malekith. I don't even know what the fuck he was trying to do, but this guy, I can what they showed was enough for me to get on board with. Okay, I understand why he's doing what he's doing, and what he's trying to accomplish. But I think they set up Mordo to be a better Loki type villain. I think just having him, having a little bit more of him now, like setting him up, and now he's going to turn into the villain. Any villain they can bring back for multiple movies is only going to help their villain problem. So the fact that Mordo didn't die and they're setting him up to bring him back later, that's only going to help their villain problem.
I just hope they don't go Crossbones on it, because I didn't really feel like they did a very good job.
Oh, that's true. I guess they did bring him back for multiple movies, and he didn't really do anything either.
Yeah, he did squat that last time. It's just like he blew up in midair and destroyed that building, and it was just kind of like, yeah, this is stupid.
Well, the problem for me with Crossbones is the role that he plays in the Marvel Universe. He's the guy that pulls the trigger to kill Captain America. And we got an intro ass beating of Crossbones as his major role as a villain. Like his turn as a supervillain was a brief intro to Civil War, and it was like, for the guy that kills Captain America, it didn't feel like enough. Crossbones is not a great villain among comic book villains, but
they really kind of
they spit that one out there and they just kind of let it be what it was.
For the record, I went on IMDb. It is Caecilius with a K.
Oh.
Nailed it.
That's honestly a villain I don't think I've ever run into in a comic that I read, so...
Yeah, I knew nothing about him either.
No.
How about that Mads Mikkelsen, though? He was in Doctor Strange, pretty big movie this year, and he's also going to be in fucking Rogue One.
Yeah. Big roles in both,
big
too.
year for that, dude, huh?
Yeah, he's having a big year. And he was Hannibal, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Show.
Yeah, the television show, he was Hannibal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's on a bit of a role for somebody that's a fairly, previously no-name type of guy, that he was in movies and you saw him there. but he didn't play a huge role. He was also a James Bond villain.
Yeah. Oh, he was great in Casino Royale. I thought he was a good villain.
He was one of the good things about that movie. It was he's an up and comer, I would say, at this point. He's kind of getting there now, I would say. Being the main villain here and having the Rogue One role coming up.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a good role in Rogue One. So I'm just anxious to see a Star Wars movie. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh,
you're always anxious to see a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with that.
And we're gonna be getting one a year for some time now, so we can sate that need.
One thing I wanted to get on, I guess we sort of talked about Cumberbatch, but how did you guys feel about Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange?
Oh, I thought he did an excellent job.
I mean, I was hoping they were going to choose him for Doctor Strange long before they casted him.
He did seem like the dream casting for a while there.
Yeah, he didn't disappoint at all. Like I said, the American accent thing, it wasn't his choice to do that, I'm sure. So I can't fault him for that. I felt like he acted the character great, because Doctor Strange really does take that turn to being a dick. That much I do know about the character, is he does become a jackass for a while.
Yeah.
And he really, kind of like Tony Stark goes through the alcoholic period, he goes through the asshole period, and he played that very well, like the what's the word I'm looking for here? I should know this word. This is not chemistry. The chemistry between him and Rachel McAdams was there enough that the tension felt real between the two of them. And I think that's a great credit to both of them in acting, because you didn't get a whole lot of relationship building between the two of them.
No, they just kind of talked about it like it was in the past already.
Yeah. And when he treats her like shit, you actually, I mean, at least I did, felt bad for her at that point. You felt like, what the hell is he doing? Why would he do this to this person that's so good to him? And it's like, wait, I don't even know that she's been good to him. We've seen like 3 seconds of this relationship. So
you come to find out later that she actually gives him a watch that was engraved. So, I mean, obviously they had something going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, she's bringing a guy who's handicapped groceries, and, it's kind of like, okay, she's helping this dude out. And she wants more out of it, and he doesn't, and then he's just like, fuck you.
Yeah, he literally, that's about as best you can say. He does say, fuck you.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of Rachel McAdams? Because the superhero girlfriends don't get a lot to do in a lot of these movies. Do you think she was utilized well or underutilized?
I think she plays about as big a role in this as she did in the comics. Because once again, it's a character that you experience Doctor Strange in other comics and other major stories, and any stories I've read of Doctor Strange, I never really experienced that character. So I would say she probably doesn't play that big of a role in the comics. I don't feel like Doctor Strange is the type that has a love interest. He seems more Jedi in that sense to me. But
Andy, you got anything to add for Rachel McAdams?
I mean, I thought she did good with what she had, and they kept bringing her back too, which I thought was kind of like she was gone for a while, and then she was back, and she was gone, she was back, or he kept going back to her, I guess, to get medical help. So I don't know, she felt kind of night nursey to me.
I'm pretty sure that character is the night nurse in the comics, but they've established the night nurse as Rosario Dawson, so they had to do a different version for the movie.
I mean, that was one thing I will take issue with. It wasn't not her fault, just the writing of the movie, is that she seemed all too quickly to accept what was going on with him.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed far too easy for her to be like, oh, there's an astral projection of you telling me where to put this shot into your chest. Okay, I'm not going to run terrified into the night because you're a fucking ghost or something. Like, it felt far too simple.
She sees the portal and she's just like, okay.
Yeah, stunned, but not freaking out in any way. I mean, that would be like, think about that. Think about a friend who's sleeping and all of a sudden just pops up in the spirit form, like, "Hey."
Yeah, pretty much like that's like faint time. You're just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Everything you know about reality just went gone.
Yeah. Bye byes.
In to have all right, well, I'll get back to doing this.
That's just how good she is at her job. Nothing phases her.
She's dedicated.
So this is the same character that was supposed to have had taken care of Daredevil, and
I feel like it was. I don't. Now I might be saying something that's not true, but I thought the night nurse character maybe dealt more with Doctor Strange, and then they sort of brought that character into the Defenders universe. And that's maybe why
wasn't Doctor Strange one of the Defenders at one point, though?
He was the leader of the Defenders originally, but then none of the characters that really, other than Luke Cage, that they have as the Defenders for Netflix were original Defenders. The Defenders were much more powerful than what they're dealing with on Netflix.
Okay.
I mean, it was like, I think we had this conversation before when we talked about Luke Cage, but I mean, it was Doctor Strange, the Hulk, Luke Cage, and there was a fourth founding member of the Defenders, and I'm losing it. I can't think of it. But they were not defenders of New York. They were defenders against much more powerful villains. They weren't street level in any way. They were more, I don't want to say cosmic level, but similar. Like much more upscale threats than just threatening.
So they were much closer to the Avengers than the current Netflix Defenders are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have to double check on Night Nurse where she came from and stuff, because I'm not exactly sure. That might be something that we talk about sometime later or bring up later. But I think we actually have to cut you loose now, right?
Yes, indeed. I need to go to work, unfortunately.
Always running off to work.
I know. It's balls.
Well, either way, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. I enjoyed the talk.
It's been nice.
Yeah, we'll catch up with you another time.
Yeah, sounds good.
See ya.
All right, catch you guys later.
All right, so we are short one man. We're down to two. We're going to try to see if Mike and I can hold this down and wrap this up a little bit. I feel like there's a couple other talking points I wanted to touch on.
Well, speaking of what you just said, there was one that came to mind for me earlier talking about Baron Mordo, and that was, is he going kind of like the Highlander route of, there can be only one? Be only one. or is he going to eliminate other sorcerers and then kill himself because there should be none? I
think
just
he's,
a fun
he's
little
trying to. I wouldn't be. I don't think he's trying to take out everybody. I think he's trying to take out everybody that breaks the rules.
Okay.
So if he finds other sorcerers that are playing within his rules, he could recruit them. So maybe he even gets a little bit of an army the next time we see him, and it's not just him.
That would be nice. That would be interesting.
But because Strange is a little bit more flexible and does what he feels is right to accomplish his goals, whether or not it's strictly, quote unquote right, I guess.
He's using the ends justify the means thing.
Right. Yeah. So he falls outside of Mordo's set of rules. So he might even. I'm wondering if Mordo would save Doctor Strange to be the last one to take out type of thing. I mean, that might be how it works just for story purposes in the movie.
Sure.
But there could be a logical reason for him too, to leave Doctor Strange as the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think on that note, it was an interesting turn for Wong himself to be a sorcerer.
Yeah.
And
is he not one in the comics?
No, he's just kind of a servant.
Okay.
He's kind of like Doctor Strange's Jarvis, as far as I know.
Okay.
I don't know the whole origin story of Wong, if there ever was one told. Um, but as far as I know, he was just kind of. I think they call him a manservant, actually.
Yeah, which probably wouldn't have flowed real well as far as the movie is concerned.
No, but of course not.
They're already getting a lot of shit for like whitewashing the movie and stuff like that.
They did?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe even specifically for like the Ancient One. But then it's like it's a lose-lose situation with them, because if they cast a Chinese actor to play the Ancient One, then it's like, oh, you're playing to stereotypes. But if they cast Tilda Swinton, then they get hit for whitewashing because they're not playing to what the character actually is.
Yeah, I don't like that double standard of it, and I also don't like. I mean, that was part of the reason that they didn't want to do the Mandarin.
Right,
I remember that being a big deal, and I was like, listen, they call him the Mandarin because he's from the Mandarin region of China. That's where his castle or whatever he has, his fortress, whatever you want to call it, is. And I like. Don't get me wrong. I like the idea of changing it over to being a terrorist organization. I thought that was cool. Ben Kingsley was awesome as the Mandarin.
Yeah.
I loved his turn as Trevor. It was fantastic. But the idea of backing off of the Mandarin because it's an Asian character that you don't want to portray as an Asian, to me is like, so they're not backing off of the Black Panther being a black dude. So what is the problem with the Mandarin being an Asian guy? I didn't understand that one bit. There's some of it where it's like open source casting in a movie's cast with, all white people, and it's kind of like, okay, what are you doing? Something that doesn't have source material. It's like, I don't have a problem with them casting, anybody to play any role. It's just certain roles, just go with what you should go with. Like, I don't know. To me, it just seemed that whole argument of one way and the other. We shouldn't cast a woman to play, or they shouldn't be writing a woman in to be Thor. They shouldn't be this. And it's like, who cares what they do with the character? Read the comic. Is it good?
Yeah.
Good enough.
They always make a storied decision as to why that happens. And if you read the stories, you'll understand exactly why they're trying to do what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, they're explaining it. Like, why is the new... Like, I just remember, I think it's probably the most recent one that they did, was having X-23 take up the mantle as the Wolverine. And it's like, okay, they did that because they killed Wolverine.
Yeah, because Old Man Logan's still floating around. Like, he's part of the universe, so they needed someone as a younger Wolverine type, and she's the all-new Wolverine.
Right. And it's like, that's why they did it, is there is no Wolverine now, and that was the closest thing she had to family, so she said, I'm taking up his mantle. It's like, okay, this makes sense. Just go with it. But,
yeah.
I don't know. As far as whitewashing the movie goes because of Tilda Swinton,
which, considering at that final battle, like, you get a shot of Wong, who's probably, a Chinese actor. You get Benedict Cumberbatch representing the white guy, and Baron Mordo representing the black guy. All three of them lined up together, fighting together.
You didn't even try to say his real name. I like that. I would butcher it myself.
Yeah, Chidi Ejiofor? Chiwetel Ejiofor, something along those lines.
I know how it's spelled in my mind. I can see how I always see it wrote down, but I don't know how to say it. I don't think I've ever actually heard somebody say his name properly. It's kind of like Jimon Hwansu. Until I heard somebody say that name, I did not know how to say it. So I just didn't. It was like, I don't want to offend anybody by trying to say it and getting it way wrong. So
I like to call him CE every now and again.
There you go. That works.
Just easier.
I mean, or we can just call him Mordo from now on.
Yeah, that works. We'll know him as Mordo.
Yeah. I mean, but...
Actually, I don't think that's something we talked about yet, is that final battle of the whole, like, going in reverse, but being in real time fight sequence. That thing was awesome. I don't think I've seen anything like that in a movie before.
They said, like, I posted on Facebook that it was a mind-bending experience as promised.
Yeah.
And it absolutely was, because, kind of like, you didn't, like, that at that point that the Eye of Agamotto can adjust time, and they show Wong being killed, and you're like, holy crap, how can they kill Wong when they're going to do more Doctor Strange later? And then you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, we're back in time, and you actually watch, like, it was like a spear or a piece of something that was through his chest, and it's just like,
yeah.
out of his body, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
I
And
will
then the
say I kind of
whole,
forgot about the time stone, and then when they get to where was it, Hong Kong, I think,
mm-hmm.
and they show up and it's already like all fucked up, and you're like, oh shit, he's coming, like Dormammu's coming, like what are they gonna do? I was like really worried all of a sudden. I was like, this is gonna have so much like ripple effects on the entire MCU. This is gonna rip everybody apart, and now they got to deal with dimensional beings and all this stuff. I was like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, and that's also an interesting thing for them at this point that they did a good job avoiding, and I hope they don't do anything with it in the future because so many other things have messed up timelines, and they have this introduced as being able to alter time. That, like, who's to say that what he did in Hong Kong with the time stone didn't change something else elsewhere?
Yeah,
That happens in the Marvel universe. Like, it would be an interesting turn of events to see. I don't know, in Spider-Man, we'll say this year, he's fighting the Vulture, and he gets knocked off of a building and he's flying down, then all of a sudden it just goes back and
yeah.
he's back on the building or something, and he's like, what the hell just happened?
Could be their get out of jail free card to retcon something somewhere down the line if they want to.
That's what I'm afraid of. Like, just own what you've done and move forward. It confuses too many people when you start doing that.
Look at the X-Men franchise.
Right. And I mean, they're still going strong, but I don't think they would have been going quite as strong if they didn't say to people like, listen, we screwed those movies up. Ignore those two movies, and we're starting anew with those two, completely out of existence. So I don't think that they would have done so well if they continued to try to follow that timeline that they had created.
Yeah.
The messed up, destroyed timeline part. So,
because I mean, all things considered, the stuff that Doctor Strange deals with, it still kind of feels like it happens in just his little pocket of the universe. It doesn't seem like it has very far-reaching ripples into the larger MCU.
not yet.
Right.
Yeah. And something else that recently came to my mind here is Doctor Strange, his biggest power in the comics at least, and it seems so in the movie, is being able to draw power from the Eye of Agamotto. Now, we know Thanos is going to acquire the Eye for the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Where is that going to leave Strange's power levels in order to be able to effectively combat him? Because this movie does not show him becoming the great sorcerer that he is in the comics.
Yeah.
This movie has him using the power of the Eye of Agamotto and his great intelligence to overcome Dormammu. But it does not show him being the ultimate sorcerer that he is.
Well, they still make it a point to tell you by the end of the movie he still has a lot to learn.
Right.
So.
And when's he going to learn that by the time Infinity
Well, that's true.
Gauntlet
Yeah,
comes
we're not going
around?
to get Doctor Strange 2 before Infinity War.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's my concern with that, is that he's not going to have that eye, so what kind of power levels are they going to have him learn between now and then that they're going to have to explain in some way with a comment or something?
Well, the argument can be made for Vision, too. What the hell's going to happen to Vision when they rip the gem out of his forehead?
Yeah. I think they had good ideas with these things to do it, to introduce the Infinity Stones, but at the same time, I'm not even sure that they thought of that yet.
Because Vision would be someone that they're really going to need on their team when they fight Thanos. Now, if he rips that gem out of his head and Vision just goes dead, you need something there.
Well, I also think they're going to overpower Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's overpowered in the comic books to begin with, but I think they're going to go even to higher levels, to more
Yeah, I think I'd seen Kevin Feige in an interview say something about her being one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful character in the MCU.
Right, and I mean, and among the characters they've introduced, even the comic version of Captain Marvel is more powerful than all of them. With maybe the exception of Thor, but maybe not at the same time. They're kind of at that same insane power level.
Yeah.
But they may go to the more... I was thinking of her character taking on a power level similar to, like, Sentry, who's just... like Thor, Superman, and Captain Marvel all wrapped into one. Or Warlock, and she plays the role of Warlock in some way. You're right. Without Doctor Strange with the Eye of Agamotto, without the Vision, because I don't know how they're going to explain the Vision will still be an android without that stone.
See, I thought the stone was sort of powering, or I guess maybe it's just what gave him the superpowers, flight and laser beams and strength.
I feel like it's what gave him life.
So that's what I mean. If you take that out, then he wouldn't be alive anymore.
No, I think it sparked his life, is what I mean. Like, it was the reason they were able to create him, and I feel like he would still exist and have most of his powers without it. I feel like this is going to be their explanation. He has most of his powers without it, but he loses that energy beam that he can project from the stone.
Yeah. I don't know. We could always just cross our fingers that Tony Stark makes some sort of comparable power source that they can plug into that spot like a battery.
That could be part of the story. You know what I mean? Like, that he, in some way, shape, or form, does that. Like, and Bruce Banner...
Just give Vision one of the Iron Man suits that are laying around somewhere and let him fight like that.
Well, but then he wouldn't be able to go the true Vision power of the...
the phasing and all that stuff.
Yeah, because the suit wouldn't phase, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm crossing my fingers they've thought of this, and hopefully they have a plan, because otherwise, if they're flying by the seat of their pants, this is not going to be good.
Well, I mean, and let's also face it, that even the most powerful all-team together in the Infinity Gauntlet comics didn't have a hope in hell against Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
They all at the same time I can still see in my head the scene is set up where it's like Warlock and the Silver Surfer overlooking the battle, and Warlock telling the Surfer, like, no, it's not time for you to enter this battle yet. I have a plan. You're part of that plan. You're not to go in yet. And they're just watching Thor, Captain America, the Hulk, everyone in the Marvel Universe, basically, with the exception of a few Celestials, and those two just get absolutely destroyed on a battlefield against Thanos, all at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they make him that powerful in the movie, they really don't have that character right now that has the ability to take him down.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't read the comic. If you haven't, go out and read it so you can learn. But they also don't. They never actually end up winning a battle against him. They don't. I'm sure you remember the end to it.
Maybe.
No? Okay, well then I will throw a spoiler alert on potential Infinity War spoilers here. Nebula tricks him and removes it from his hand when he's not paying attention.
Is she the one that sets it, like, everything back correctly, or does somebody else do that?
No, she takes the Infinity Gauntlet, sets everything back, but then they have to fight her. Like, then it's like, okay, now she's the problem now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to go that route, but they introduced Nebula, so they damn well might. Interesting to see if they do that.
Yeah, I mean, well, they have Nebula to use, so it could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to steer us back on Doctor Strange just because I think we're running out of time a little bit here.
Okay. Yeah, I got off topic.
Yeah, the Infinity War sort of like, we should maybe even leading up to Infinity War. It's probably an episode we should do of just like theorizing about what the hell is going to happen in Infinity War.
Yeah.
I think that could be a fun one to do.
Yeah, I think once we get like to that, what's the last movie before Infinity War? Is it going to be?
I believe it's Thor, isn't it?
Is it?
Or no?
Black Panther, isn't it?
Wait, Black Panther. Because Black Panther would be November of 28. No, wait. Shit.
No, I thought
Is
Black
Infinity War
Panther.
2018 or 2019?
The first one's 2018. This year,
So that would.
This year we get Guardians, Spider-Man, and Thor.
And
I'm pretty sure next year the first one is Black Panther, and then Infinity War Part 1.
I can't remember now. Shit. I'm pretty. You might be right because I'm pretty sure Black Panther's before Infinity War.
I can just. Once again, Google is useful for many things. You can just pull up the new timeline.
I used to remember like all the release dates when they were coming out. Now I keep getting them all confused and mixed up with each other.
They changed it when they put Spider-Man in. Originally, the Spider-Man date was set for Black Panther. But then they acquired Sony was willing to let Spider-Man come in, so they...
No, the Spider-Man date was supposed to be for Thor. Thor got pushed back to November because of Spider-Man, which pushed Black Panther back. Black Panther might be the November between the two Avengers movies, I think.
All right, I'm just trying to find an updated and correct timeline here so I can get us on the right path. Okay, so yeah, what we have is Black Panther is coming before the first Infinity War. That's between Ragnarok and Infinity War. Then you get Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel in between the two Infinity War movies.
Gotcha. All right.
So 2018 lines up as Panther, Infinity War, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp with Captain Marvel in 2019.
Gotcha. All right. Good to know. Hopefully I'll remember that between now and then.
Yeah.
I'm sure Marvel will remind me 20 times before then.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's not that hard to remember now. We're down to 1.5 years, really, that we have to remember the timeline for. It's not that many movies anymore.
One thing I did just want to ask, was there anything that you didn't like or anything you want to nitpick about for the movie?
I think I did a little bit of that already. With her reaction to his astral form, with him not being able to survive that car wreck. Things that I may nitpick at, other than that are a bigger deal. Using the magic directly as a weapon. Having, I don't even know what to call it, like a whip out of magic almost.
Yeah, that's essentially, it seemed like what it was.
I don't believe that happens in the comics, and I don't know. I don't know how I like that.
I guess they had to make something a little bit more visual.
It could. It's a physical weapon. Is my problem with it? It's not just an energy projection. You know what I mean? Like he's using it to slap somebody around. That's fair. With.
Yeah.
That was my issue with it. Like, yeah, I know he in the comics and video games, everything, he can use it to send out a energy projection of sorts. But in speaking on the line of weapons, one of the nice little hints of a bigger celestial impact moving forward was presented with Baron Mordo's weapons, the staff or the club or something like that of the Living Tribunal. The Living Tribunal is I don't know if he's technically a celestial, but the Living Tribunal is a major player in the grand scheme. He's one of the insanely powered beings, similar to Eternity. Eternity is the one that just kind of looks like the stars, like a face in the stars kind of thing. On the same level like Galactus, you know what I mean, like similar to a crazy powered being.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was just a nice little Easter egg they dropped in there. I don't know if they'll ever do anything more with it, but it was cool to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other issue that I would take is I don't really feel like Doctor Strange is a master of martial arts in any way. And they kind of had him training as a fighter. Uh, I
Which he never really uses when he fights. So even though he's training that way, at least he's not like karate kicking people all over the place.
yeah, we're not getting a Jet Li or Jackie Chan action scene
Yeah.
in this movie, but you're getting
Save that for Iron Fist.
you're getting the training scenes that are similar. You know what I mean? Like it had a little bit of a kickboxer feel at times. Like he's he's got to train with Mordo, and their training seemed, I don't know, like Doctor Strange in battles does not run around punching people. So it seemed out of character, but cinematic at least. Like it felt like they had to go somewhat that, like, he can't just meditate and float in the middle of a battle and send out spells for it to be a fun movie.
Which, could be cool, I guess, whenever him and Mordo eventually fight. Maybe there'll be a lot more spell casting as opposed to martial art fighting.
Yeah, and when they team up as well, in Infinity War, he doesn't have to be the one doing the punching and kicking. He can be just sitting there meditating spells out.
Yeah.
And it, play the role he does in the comics. When they fight those roles, he's usually like off in some other realm or something, defending against something, or in some way trying to affect the outcome of the battle without physical force.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I really had too much to complain about for this movie. One thing, I don't know if it's a complaint, but one thing I noticed, I felt like Doctor Strange was a little bit less funny than other Marvel movies that I'm used to. Like, I don't think it had as much humor as I maybe expected.
I think it had its fair share of humor, personally. I think it was
maybe then the jokes just didn't land with me. I don't know.
I was going to say,
I don't remember laughing too many times.
I feel like it was a different kind of humor than they've done before, which I like, because it was definitely more Cumberbatch's humor than it was typical Marvel humor. Marvel humor so far has been very tongue-in-cheek, but this seemed, like the idea of him just getting killed over and over and over again in different ridiculous ways, to me, was one of the funnier things they've done, because it didn't require, Robert Downey Jr. saying, "Oh, doth mother know you wear her drapes?" It was just plain funny, a funny situation that they, a serious situation that they took and added comedy to when it wasn't necessary, but it worked.
That's more dark comedy type of stuff.
Right. That's what I mean. It definitely had that dark comedy feel to a lot of the moments that it had it. Kind of like, I can't remember exactly what the joke was when he's talking to Benjamin Bratt, but there was a good line in there. I'm gonna have to watch it again to remember all these things, but there's a good joke in there when he's talking to Benjamin Bratt. The whole Mr. Doctor Strange thing was,
I did like
fun,
that.
I feel like it was there. It just wasn't as blatant as
maybe
others.
I have to see it again then. Maybe I was just in the mindset of like, this should be a serious movie, and the jokes weren't hitting maybe for me as much.
Could be, yeah.
One of the other things that I feel like I mention all the time, because I think it's an aesthetic that a lot of movies roll with now, and I fucking hate it, which is the close-up, shaky cam, quick cut things for any type of action sequence or hand-to-hand combat that people want to do. They're doing all this crazy shit with this magic, and even like the opening sequence with the Ancient One fighting the Mads Mikkelsen and all his minions and stuff. Like, it starts out with wide shots, and then as soon as they want to start getting in close and fighting, the camera starts to shake. It's really quick cuts of, like, she throws out a punch, and then it cuts to someone reacting, and then it throws out another punch, and then you, like, just pull the camera back, let me see your well-choreographed fight scene, and I can understand what's happening. The fact that it shakes so much and cuts so quickly, I get disoriented as to where people are in the fight, who's hitting who, how all that plays out, and it pulls me out of the experience every fucking time.
I feel like that is more of a tendency to do that when they don't have the well choreographed fight scene, and
because you can't see the punches not landing.
Right, and it also gives it it makes it feel like it's happening faster than it is. If you had that wide angle view of Tilda Swinton and Mads Mikkelsen having a hand-to-hand combat, and all his minions, it wouldn't feel as fast as they want it to if they did the wide angle, watch the whole battle thing. And for a character like the Ancient One, who they were portraying in this to be an absolute beast of a martial artist, they needed it to feel fast. Whereas that single cutscene from the Daredevil show in season 1, they wanted you to feel the impact of every punch. They wanted you to see everything that happened in that, to make it very evident that this is not somebody who can take this beating and walk away from it unscathed. They wanted, he's not a ultimate superhero who isn't flawed, and they wanted the Ancient One to feel more like a hero that's not flawed, that makes those perfect, punches and kicks and transitions to magic in between fighting, because the Ancient One is superpowered and Daredevil really kind of isn't. He is, but he's not. So
it's just, I don't know, it's something I've noticed for a lot of, like, not just Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I finally noticed it in some of the Bourne Identity movies. Not the first one, but once Paul Greengrass took over the Bourne Identity movies, like with Supremacy, Ultimatum, and even the most recent one, like some of those fight sequences, like, they're so, they're good, like, they're doing a lot of cool shit, but they're so shaky and close up, and it's so hard to see what they're doing, that I think it takes away from the fights. And that's just the thing that action movies and fight scenes are in general are guilty of now, and I fucking hate it. It's like a pet peeve of mine.
Well, I mean, in the Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne movies, I would make the same case that they want him to seem faster than he actually could be for them to film.
Yeah, I get the reasoning. To me, I can't stand it, and it's something that I guess more or less, I hate it so much that I find myself looking for it. Like, when the action sequences start up, I'm like, are they going to do it like this? And then when they do, it's like, oh, great, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking for it specifically, and it pisses you off as much as it obviously does, that you're going to see it more than other people.
Yeah, I gotta start getting some good examples of movies that don't do it and that work really well with their fight sequences.
I mean,
off the top of my head, I can't think of any right now.
I was going to say, I don't recall if John Wick does that or not, but I'm sure they do.
John Wick at least specialized a lot more on longer cuts. Like, it still might be shaky. I think the camera's pulled back a little bit, but there's long takes before they cut away. So he gets a couple shots off and is taking a couple people out before they cut to something else, instead of like, throw a punch, cut. Throw a punch, cut. Your head smacks back because you got punched in the face, cut. Like,
okay.
That stuff irritates me.
Well, watch The Matrix again, and at least The Matrix, I can say there's several fight scenes there you can watch that are just fantastic as far as what you're looking for.
Yeah, they purposely slow the camera. It's almost the opposite. They slow the camera down, they keep it still, and they roll it on a dolly for a lot of those action sequences. And those are, you know what? I'm going to go back and watch The Matrix now. You've convinced me.
Yeah. Honestly, I want to say it was like Halloween or something. They had a deal through Xbox, on the the Microsoft movies and TV. I bought the whole series digitally for like $20. It was like,
nice.
Sure. I've never watched them in high def. I always had the DVDs, so like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hold up the same way. It didn't originally, but there's a lot of those scenes where Neo's flying around, or in the fight sequences with Smith, with all the Smiths. it
Oh,
looks
yeah.
very claymation almost. It gets a very bad look to it now. But when it wasn't in high def, it definitely looked better than it does in high def. But
Yeah, yeah.
the sequence is still there that you're looking for. The martial arts of it is
I
still
got you.
there.
Yeah, I got you. All right, so one final question I'll hit you with before we get out of here. And I think you might even answered it earlier. But as far as Doctor Strange compared to other MCU movies, where do you think you'd rank it in your list?
Ranking.
Now, see, I've only seen it once, so I feel like I need to see it twice before I really make a ruling.
Yeah,
But for me, I feel like my top 5 are pretty solid, so it might just be like right outside my top 5.
let me review in my head my top 5 real quick. 'Cause,
I'll throw mine out just in case it helps you. My top 5: Winter Soldier, Avengers 1, Civil War, First Iron Man, and Guardians are my 5.
okay. Yeah. I mean, I would put Guardians, Winter Soldier, the first Iron Man, um, the first Avengers, and then
You're replacing Civil War with something.
yeah. I think we had this discussion before, and you disagreed with me that I actually really liked Age of Ultron.
Okay, yeah.
But could this supplant Age of Ultron? Maybe.
It might actually crack your top 5.
Well, I mean, it could. I'm gonna have to watch it a couple more times, but I would say it's right in that same zone. It's one of the better movies they've done. I would say, like, I
Yeah.
didn't come out of this one feeling the way I came out of Ant-Man, where it was like, okay, that was a decent enough movie, but I don't know how I feel about it. I came out of this one feeling pretty damn good about having seen what I just did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even close to the way I felt coming out of watching Guardians for the first time. Like, I came out of Guardians the first time, and I was like, that was just absolutely the most fun I've had in years at a movie. Like, it was just fun from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And it's gonna, like, I'm hoping Guardians 2 can, claim the new top spot on that list. But God only knows, because Iron Man 2 sure as shit didn't do much. So, Thor 2 didn't do much. Captain America 2,
Yeah.
however, set the bar pretty high for sequels because it was better than the first one.
Yeah, that one's still my favorite out of all of them.
To me, it's number 2 or number 3. It's fantastic.
All right, so it might be too early to tell.
Yeah, I don't feel like Age of Ultron is a solid number 5. I don't feel like it's entrenched there in any way.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I'm sure we'll come back to a MCU list again. I know we did one already at one episode. I can't remember what number, but we did rank our MCU movies at one point, so I'm sure we'll revisit that one after a couple more MCU movies come out and see if our lists change at all.
Yeah, I think you got to give it a few movies to come out and see how you feel, because if it's tough to do it after each one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's do we want to put like a number rating on Doctor Strange? What would you give it? Maybe like out of 10?
I'd go 8.
Or is that too much putting you on this? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm gravitating to. 8 out of 10. It's a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's a good number for them.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that's where we'll wrap this one up. I'm not really sure what we'll cover next week. There's a Wonder Woman trailer that's been floating around for a couple weeks now that I still want to talk about. We haven't actually got a chance to do that yet, so that might be something to cover. And there was a trailer for another movie that popped out today that was getting a lot of buzz at San Diego Comic-Con. That's what the hell's the name of it? Valerian, I think, in the City of a Thousand Planets.
Okay.
Directed by Luc Besson, the guy that did Fifth Element. So that movie looks pretty crazy. Another crazy sci-fi movie that could be worth talking about. I don't know anything about it, but the trailer looks fucking cool. So that could be next week. The week after that, I'm debating whether or not we'll do a show. I might take a week off for Thanksgiving, depending on how that rolls out, since we normally record on Thursdays, Thanksgiving falls on Thursday, so we'll see if we can get something in before then or not.
You mean Josh isn't pushing you for a Fantastic Beasts show?
I was gonna say the only thing that could happen in between then is that Fantastic Beasts is the weekend before Thanksgiving. So if I can schedule something with people that have seen the movie that first weekend earlier in the week, like a Tuesday or Wednesday night, that we can record and I can put it out at the weekend or the Sunday or Monday after Thanksgiving, that could work. So that's also a possibility. So it could. I'm 50-50. It could go either way. I'll probably have to talk to Josh and see what he wants to do.
Yeah,
if I can get Josh lined up, that's probably because I have to have him for Fantastic
Yeah,
Beasts.
I was gonna say, if you do a Fantastic Beasts show and Josh isn't here for it, he may disown you.
Yeah, he has to be here to educate all of us on what we didn't see in that movie.
I mean, I'm going to be dragged to it. My wife is close to just as obsessed as Josh is with the whole Harry Potter thing, so.
Yeah.
I'll be there to see it. I don't know opening weekend or not. She's probably going to want to do that.
Hey, she's welcome to come on and talk about it too if she wants.
I'll let her know.
With her and Josh together, it could be interesting.
It very well could be.
All right, so yeah, it's sort of ballparking what I'm thinking. We'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll keep you posted within the next couple of weeks how the episodes play out and post on the Facebook page. So that's my segue to please check us out on Facebook for searching for Bry Guy and Super Friends, or go to www.facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can find the page there. Give it a like. Keep up with the show, topics, happenings, all the stuff we got going on. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. That will really help us out. Also, be sure to share, subscribe, favorite the show wherever you're listening to us from, which could be iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. We're available on all of those. And on behalf of Andy, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.